Hey guys, it's Joanna, Naturally Motivated Lady, and I am back with another video. This is a follow-up or part 2 of how to interlock your own locks using the 2-point rotation. In this video, I'll answer some of the questions that you left in the comment section of my previous video on this topic, and I'll show you and give you some extra tips on how I do the 2-point rotation and pretty much expound on why the 2-point rotation works so well. So definitely keep watching and go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. Take a second right now, I'll wait. I'll also throw in some video at the end to show you how my hair is looking right now at 3 years and 8 months. All right, so let's talk about the 2-point rotation. As a quick overview, let me show you what it is. My first tip is if your hair is frizzy at the roots or if you have hair that grows away from the lock, wrap it around the lock a couple times before starting to interlock. And then you want to go ahead and put your lock into the interlock tool. Next, you thread the interlocking tool through the base of the lock. For example, if I enter the tool from the right side, I will go in from the right side and then go in from the top. So it would be right side, then top, right side, then top. That would be for the 2-point rotation. So let's go ahead and look at that again. And by the way, your interlock tool does not have to be any one particular tool. You can use a tool that's comfortable for you and that works best for the size of your locks. And I do this until there's almost no room to go any further because I don't want my interlocks to be too tight. I don't want any discomfort after retightening my hair. If you can't comfortably lay down to rest your head and take a nap after you interlock your hair, then in my humble opinion, it's too tight. And interlocking already has a bad rep because some people feel like it causes things like thinning and breakage, when in reality, it's actually bad techniques and improper interlocking or improper retwisting that causes things like that. And I go a lot more into detail in one of my previous videos, Why Get Interlocks. So I'll put a link in the description box for that if you'd like to check that out. Okay, so when interlocking, what if you end with the lock going down, pointing downwards, and there's still room for one more pass before making it too tight? If you don't want your lock to end with it sticking to the left or to the right, then that brings us to tip number 2, which is to go in diagonally from one of the corners, from one of the top corners. And this is what I do. You guys, I always use a couple of ponytail holders and a couple of hair clips to keep the other locks out of the way of the lock that I'm working on. I am not trying to combine or marry any of my locks together. So like always, my first pass is through the lock from the side, right or left. And for the 2-point rotation, my second entry point is from the top. And for this lock, there is not enough new growth to do another full 2-point rotation, but I can feel with my fingers that there is enough room for one more pass. So as you can see, I do a 3rd point and go in diagonally from an angle from the top left corner. I also want to show you another example of what to do when there are loose hairs around the lock. And this one's pretty long. But yes, with locks, sometimes you get those loose hairs between the locks. So what I do in this case is go ahead and clean up that part and then twist those loose hairs around the lock that they should belong to. And I give it a little twirl on my finger and then I go ahead and interlock it as normal. So I'll go in from the side and then with a 2-point rotation, I go in from the top. I always end the rotation either pointing down or going diagonally. And I always start each rotation going from side to side, either right or left. So this ensures that I pretty much never go through the same hole back to back, because improper or bad technique can definitely cause damage. Entering through the same direction repeatedly back to back can cause a Y formation in your locks or holes in your locks. So we definitely want to avoid this. And this can also lead to your locks becoming very, very fragile and weak. I hope this all makes sense. And let me know in the comments if you've ever had any issues with getting holes in your locks or just getting fragile or weak locks. But the third tip, or just something that I observed with my hair, is that I think that the 2-point rotation gives my hair a bit more room to expand versus the 4-point rotation, which seems to be a much tighter pattern. When I first started my locks several years ago, I was waiting about 7 or 8 weeks between retightenings and then doing the 4-point rotation. But then shortly after that, I started doing the 2-point rotation. And it seems that the 2-point rotation is a bit looser and allows my hair to expand more or swell more. But I think a big part of that is that I use the right amount of tension, and I don't do it too tight. So whether you use the 2-point, the 3-point, or the 4-point rotation, it's all about finding the right amount of tension and the right timing of how often you retighten your locks. For me, the 2-point rotation allows me to get the right amount of tension without it being too tight. And it works great with my timing of retightening my hair every 4 to 5 weeks. So I feel like 4 weeks for me is exactly the right amount of time between reties that allows me to get at least 1 to 2 full 2-point rotations. And occasionally when needed, if I have room for only one more pass and I don't want my lock to end up sticking out from the left or from the right, then I go in diagonally. And that way it's just right. But for example, if you typically wait 3 or 4 months between retightenings, then maybe a different rotation method might be best for you, since you'll have 2 or 3 times the amount of new growth. So you have to see what works best for you. But sticking with the 2-point method has helped me to maintain a very strong base for each of my locks with no breakage, no thinning, and no holes. But definitely go back and watch my first video where I talk about the main reasons that I chose the 2-point rotation rather than the 3 or 4-point rotation. But overall, the 2-point rotation is easy and simple to do. It prevents me from making holes in my locks from going to the same direction back to back. And as we've talked about in this video, if you have frizzy hair at the roots, you can just wrap it around the lock before interlocking to join the hairs with the rest of the lock. The second tip was to go in diagonally from one of the corners if you're going to do the 2-point rotation and only have room for maybe one more pass. And a third tip is to use an interlocking method that provides the right amount of tension for your particular locks. In my case, the 2-point rotation gives me a very strong base that allows my locks to round out and expand into nice, strong, healthy locks. So I'm going to go ahead and show you some footage of what my hair currently looks like at 3 years and 8 months. Also, I wanted to mention that I have some very exciting news. There is so much that I want to share with you all about my hair journey from relaxed to natural to locks. So I started writing a book, and it's not just about sharing my story, but there is a lot of very useful information that I feel that others can benefit from. So if you've made it this far in the video, in the comment section, let me know what topics you would like to make sure that I include in this book. I'm in the process of completing the writing, and I'll then need to get it edited and so forth before I release it. All right, so here's some video of how my hair currently looks. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Take care. Bye.